Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Lucky Dog Gen 6 Series, second race of the season here at Chicagoland Motor Speedway. 100 laps for you, 150 miles. We'll go ahead and get through our starting lineup before we get too deep in anything else and miss whatever we have lined up for us tonight. Starting on the pole, we have the 429 of Paul Witt, and in second we have the number 9 of John Held. Starting third, we have the 140 of Jim Featherstone, and in fourth we have the 89 of Randolph Richard. Let's go ahead and let's a little bit closer so we can actually see our drivers here. So Randolph Richard there. Starting in fifth is the 23 of Mr. Razor Cut, and to his outside, in sixth, the 44 of Jacob Edson. Starting seventh is the 777 of Michael Pegg. In eighth, we have the 4 of Larry Eddy. Starting in ninth, we have the 19 of Ben Gear, and in 10th, we have the 33 of Gary Ragland. Starting 11th, we have the 43 of Sandy Curtis, and in 12th, we have the 144 of Rick Adams. Starting in 13th, we have the 71 of Mr. Dirty Don, and in 14th, we have the 59 of Ralph Blair. Starting in 15th is the 52 of Gary Whitmer Sr. Starting 16th is the 00 of Thomas Holder, though it does not appear he is currently on track. Starting 17th is the 24 of Jason Adams. In 18th, we have the 6 of Mr. Brian Pierce. In 19th, we have the 91 of Joel Guy. And in 20th, we have the 58 of Chris Hogue, who also appears to not currently be on track. Hopefully both those guys, everything's going all right with them. Like we said, 100 laps here at Chicagoland. Very bumpy track. It can be a very difficult track if you overdrive the car. So these guys are going to be really looking out for tire wear. We talk about it every single week, but that's going to be their biggest enemy here. This pace car dips down pit road. Paul Witt brings him into the Geico restart zone. Green flag is out. Good start from that bottom lane. Paul Witt already clears the 9 of John Held. He's got the 140 of Jim Featherstone right there behind him. That'll go ahead and that'll hold the 9 up the track. But Chicagoland is very interesting. This track in these cars, you can run it flat out, foot through the floor, you know, for lap after lap after lap after lap. Doesn't really matter what line you're running, but as this race goes on, we're going to see more and more lanes start to open up. Early on, in my estimation, that bottom lane is the best lane to be in, but as things go on, we are 3 wide there further back. Michael Pegg definitely looking to make up a lot of position. He started 7th. He's looking there on the bottoms. Hasn't made any position there. Wasn't able to get too much, but he'll be looking to make a pass before too long. It's the 140 of Jim Featherstone looking to the inside of Paul Witt there going down the backstretch. Was not able to get the run he needed, so he just sort of falls in line. But like we were saying, as we go on, more lanes are really going to open up. The way this track goes, I've seen it stay pack racing all 100 laps here in Lucky Dog before, and it was controlled by just one guy up in the front running that middle lane, really stopping people from being able to pass him low. Paul Witt really sliding up there to the outside wall on corner exit. Excuse me, Jim Featherstone here looking to dive to the inside. Again, 89 to Randolph Richard looking maybe to follow him through. He's too far back, just kind of falls back a little bit. Gets a good run there along the front stretch up to the rear bumper of the 140. Jim Featherstone just kind of looking to see what Paul's doing, what he can do to maybe capitalize on differences of what Paul's doing. Looked like we have a little bit of a wiggle there from the 9. John Held falling back here, fair ways, back into the 7th position. Just kind of running the bottom. He's definitely looking to take care of that car. If it's already feeling a little squirrely on him is what it looked like that was out of turn 2. It's going to take a few laps. Go ahead and let that car settle and then get right back to it. Talk about people making moves, whatnot. 89 of Randolph Richard was looking to see if he could get past the 140 of Jim Featherstone. It looked like he finally got the run he needed down the backstretch to get alongside the 429 of Paul Witt. He makes that pass. Paul saw that coming, let him have it, got right back in the throttle. He's challenging back here on the outside. This lap, though, goes to the 140. That'll be a bonus point to Jim Featherstone for having led a lap. Caution flag is out. Let's see who that was. '24 off the pace. Let's go ahead and back this up. Looks like he may have been involved in it. So here we go. This looks like he's going through turn 3, racing side by side with Joel Guy. Oh, that'll cause it. That'll do it. Boom, right there. I do believe that's the 144 of Rick Adams. Got all kinds of out of shape. We'll go back and we'll take a look again. So this is them going through turns 3 and 4. He's sliding up, just asks too much of it, hits the wall. Looks like he net codes off the 91, 24, not really anticipating him coming back up the track. Catches him in the right rear. We'll go one more time. Let's look at this from our friend, the chopper cam. Here they go. You see him, he just comes up, pow! And a little bit of net code off the 91 and into the 24. Unfortunate. 6 laps in. I guess he might already be dealing with a little bit of a worn out right front. I hope not. He's able to get it refired. Hopefully he was able to get back around the track. Let's take a look and see. He's still on pit road, so he may have had to take that tow. So that was our first caution of the evening. Hopefully it's not one of many. Chicagoland really lends itself to long green flag runs, but every now and then you will have that instance where you just don't have the grip you need in that right front to really hold it down. That looked like maybe what happened there, because it's holding too much speed here is not really a problem for these cars. Like we mentioned, you can be foot through the floor the whole way around this track in these cars. So at 6 laps seems a little early in my estimation. So I wonder if maybe there was some contact or damage before, actually, because that's not something I considered. It's like maybe he had made contact with the wall prior, just trying to avoid something. Any number of things, but hopefully we get the 144 back out on track. It definitely looks like right front suspension damage. Hopefully he remembers to check his fast repair, get his backup car out before that tow completes. That way he can get right back into it. So 8 laps in. That caution was on lap 6, so a couple laps here under caution. 429 of Paul Witt is still your leader. The 44 of Jacob Edson, he'll be restarting second. 43 of Sandy Curtis will be restarting third. The 71 of Dirty Don Davis, this man's going to be restarting in fourth. And Gary Whitmer Sr., from what I see, and that has updated, no, the 777 of Michael Pegg. One of these two guys, I think it should be Gary Sr. Yeah, it looks like it is indeed Gary Sr. Gary Sr. here will be restarting fifth. Michael Pegg, I do believe, is going to be your first car down pit road. I believe he, the 140 of Jim Featherstone, the 89 of Randolph Richard, the 4 of Larry Eddy. I think from Michael Pegg on back, all of these guys came down pit road and at least put fuel in the car. They may have put tires on. I'm not entirely certain. I'm still dealing with some computer issues of myself, and I don't have all of my tools in front of me. But looking at that top 5, it definitely suggests that we had a round of pit stops happen, at least to get a little bit of fuel. I do believe that these guys can make halfway on, the tank of fuel they started the race with. The big tell is going to be tires. Tires are really going to come into play here, even only having 6 green flag laps on these tires. I mean, we've seen races at Kansas where 5 laps made all the difference. So these guys up front, they're going to have to keep their eye out, keep their hands up on the steering wheel, because those guys behind him, starting with that 777 of Michael Pegg here in 6th, and that 140 of Jim Featherstone, we've already seen he's fast. Both these guys, your first cars on fresh tires, and then Randolph Richard, who's been showing a lot of speed tonight already. These 3 guys, ones to keep an eye on as we head back to going green. I just got to take a moment and say that 44 at Jacob Edson machine, that is a beautiful looking car. Definitely, I think one of the best Gen 6 paint schemes I've seen. I really like that car. Alrighty, Paul Witt brings into the Geico restart zone. Green flag is back out. Much better start from that outside lane this time, though the 43 gave a good push to the 429. Paul Witt clearing Jacob Edson before they make it to turn one. That's exactly what Paul Witt wants. Sandy Curtis looking to follow him through. Sandy Curtis clears Jacob Edson. Jacob falls down into line in third place. Back racing, Sandy Curtis probably a little more just from having raced around him, seems a very competitive person, wants to do as well as he can. He's going to be looking to get past that 429 of Paul Witt. He does not want to follow that Toyota for too much longer. He wants to get out there, get that fresh air, be able to turn the lap times that he wants, control the pace of this race. 44, Jacob Edson got a really good run on him. Going down that front stretch, Sandy Curtis stuck out high. That's not necessarily a bad place to be. I've noticed more often than not that middle lane here tends to be the lane that comes out on top the longer these runs go. You can make the top line work. A lot of speed up there on the top line, especially on corner exit. But that middle lane seems to be where the long-term speed is here, at least in these cars. I'm already starting to drift up the track a little bit, trying to get a little bit of clean air on the nose of those cars. 44, Jacob Edson all over Sandy Curtis's rear bumper, looking for that way around. Jacob Edson will be one of the first people to look up high. He's going to be one of those guys who's looking to that high side where folks typically aren't this early in a run. Keep that clean air on that nose, keep all that grip, make up that position. You see Paul Witt seeing what Jacob Edson is doing. Jacob knocking on the back bumper of the 43 of Sandy Curtis. Sandy gets the inside of Paul Witt. But that run Paul's able to get just there off the middle top of the track is enough to get him right back out in front of the 43. And that's pretty much what you're going to have to do. Is you're going to have to force your way to the outside of the guy ahead of you the longer these runs go on in order to be able to get around him. Several races run here where essentially what the leader did, especially going down the front stretch, you see a lot of times they'll duck down to that white line, they'll go below the, go down below that white line onto the apron. I've seen plenty of race here where the leader, instead of guarding down there the inside, what he'll do is he'll run the, just the middle of the tri-oval, or just run right up against the wall through the tri-oval just to make sure no one can get to his outside. You see, that's exactly what Jacob Edson is trying to do. He's trying to get to the outside of Sandy Curtis before they make it into the corner. And unfortunately, by the time he's able to get there on Sandy, they've already made it to corner entry. And you can see what this is doing. We've got folks behind him on fresh tires. I assume these guys who came down pit road and don't really have to worry about making it halfway. Michael Pegg, he's moved his way here up to the 4th position. He's on the inside of the 52, Gary Whitmer Sr., and he already knows Gary Sr., doesn't matter what position he's in, he will race you. But they're stacked up 2 wide. Michael Pegg looking to take it 3 wide going into turn 3. He's able to get to the inside. He's going to back out, or he's going to hit right into that 43. Almost did. But he does not have that preferred lane. He's stuck down there. With the way that this race is going, it's really bottlenecked this field up. We are 2 by 2 by 2 by 2, 3 rows deep here. Talk about people trying to make plays, trying to make position. 6 of Brian Pierce. Remember, he started all the way in the back. Oh, Michael Pegg, real big loose moment there, almost lost it. Go back and we'll take a look at that. That was not expected. He's racing side by side really hard with Sandy Curtis here. Just comes up, it's like he taps him a little bit, and that gets the car, like jerks down. Wasn't expecting that. That's the kind of move you see from Michael Pegg when he's not expecting someone to be there. Like maybe he thought he was clear. Came up and realized, oh crap, I'm not clear. Simply the only time you see that. Good heads up driving from Michael Pegg, keep everything pointed in the right direction. Sandy Curtis keeping a hold of his car. Let's go back to the lead They are side by side. Sandy Curtis and Jacob Edson here for the second position. That little sideways moment from Michael really shook this field up a little bit. We were 2 by 2, 3 rows deep, fighting for third on back. Things have now stretched themselves out, like we were mentioning. 6 here. Brian Pierce, remember he started in the back. He's up to the 7th position, so I would go ahead as of right now, give him our biggest mover award. Brian Pierce, someone you don't want to sleep on. That car will sneak up on you. We head back in front, 429, Paul Witt in that Doritos Toyota, doing a very good job of really holding this lead down, really commanding this race. He's going to be a hard person to pass. He knows that if they get to his outside, he's going to have a hard time holding them off. So I expect he's going to be guarding that outside as this race goes on. A lot of speed in that 429 car. You see he slides up. He sees the run from Jacob Edson coming. He slides up just at that last moment, be able to go ahead and kill that run. How much longer is Jacob Edson going to take that before he either throws a bumper or dives that car low as hard as he can, tries to execute a slide job. You see Paul Witt, he gets down to that white line. He's not leaving that bottom open, but he sees Jacob Edson slide up early every single time. And what it's doing is it's keeping Jacob Edson where he's got to worry about the 43 behind him, 52 behind that. He can't just afford to keep looking at the 429 in front of him. He's got to be able to run. He's got to figure out where he can run to be able to make some time. You see the 429 of Paul Witt. Paul Witt's starting realizing all that speed Jacob Edson's getting. So what he's doing is he's moving up that track. He's taking the air off the nose of that 44. He's like, okay, if you want to pass me, go ahead. Pass me low. He's opening up that bottom lane. So he's running that middle high lane. We were already mentioning that's going to be the fast lane the longer this race goes on. And at this point, if the guys behind him took fresh tires, I don't think that those tires are really going to make that much of a difference with the fact that we've already moved to the point where the guy in the middle lane controls the whole race, and that's exactly what Paul Witt's doing. He's not going to be able to really drive away from these guys behind him too easily. It's going to be very difficult. The draft here at Chicagoland is so important. He takes the air off the right front of Sandy Curtis, forces Sandy Curtis to get out of the throttle, really makes that car tight. You see, Jacob's able to get a little bit of space on Paul Witt going through the corners on the bottom, but he doesn't have the run exactly off the bottom to be able to get alongside. When Paul committed that middle high lane, Jacob is going to have to pass him low, and I don't know that he's really going to be able to do that. I mean, we've been seeing here in the background 777 of Michael Pegg still in 5th position. He's trying to get around that 52 of Gary Whitmer Sr. Gary's just up there running that middle high lane. Michael can't clear him, and so you see the run the 52 gets off the top. 52 retains 4th position this lap. The only way the 52 is going to get passed by the 777 is if Gary lets Michael go by. And this is going to do horrible things to the long run handling of that 777 car. He's not going to be able to really hold as he dives it in there, goes for the slide job, looks like he'll be able to make it stick. Look though like the 52 got out of the throttle a little bit, but he's still committing to that higher lane. But even these two racing side by side sort of backed up the group they were running with. And you go ahead and you take a look back. Michael Pegg dives it down to the bottom. Not certain what happened there. We take a look here a little further back. The 89, he's been looking for a way to get around these two for a while now. He's got to negotiate the 52 by himself. The 9 of John Held and the 6 of Brian Pierce. Both these guys have been held up by this. Now they're in the middle of a hornet's nest trying to get their way through here, but all these cars, close to 30 laps on most of these guys' tires, I don't think they have the grip to really get what they're looking for. Is it the 6 of Brian Pierce looking like he's going to try and go for a pass low on the 9 of John Held? I don't think he's going to be able to get there. The 9's got a lot more clean air looking in between the 89 and the 52. It's a nice pull from Gary Sr. down the front. That should pull him almost clear. Does pull him completely clear, it looks like, of the 89 of Randolph Richard. Dives it down low, trying to get everything he can right now. Be able to try and make up position. Gets a really good run there off the bottom. If he put a little bit of a side draft on the 52, he might be able to draw him, door to door. This is going to be a difficult pass. We saw Michael Pegg had to work on that 52 for several laps before he was able to get by. And I don't think John Held's going to have an easier time of it. We go up to the 777 of Michael Pegg. He's running out here. He's not too far back. He's only a second off of Sandy Curtis there in 4th. He's doing everything he can to be able, as we see the 9 in the background, able to make that pass on the 52. He's trying to track these guys down, but they are, like we said, they're a second ahead. And if I had to guess, we should be looking, these guys should be able to make halfway on this tank of fuel. He's going to have 18, 19 laps to catch these guys before they come down pit road. And then he's got some decisions to make. So come here to the front, 429 of Paul Witt seems to have pulled a little bit of a more comfortable lead. 2/10 now separate him and Jacob Edson. It was 3/10 when we popped up here. Paul just running his race. He's got a little bit of breathing room. He doesn't have to worry too much about what that 44 is doing. He can run whatever line he wants, so long as that 44 stays back there. I expect to see that 429 to run whatever line he feels most comfortable. See, he's running that bottom lane while he's out here alone. And then these guys start to catch up. You'll see he'll move back up to the middle lane, up to the high lane to go ahead, take the air off the nose of those cars. Really not allow them to build any kind of momentum runs. That's what he's doing to Jacob right here. He's already moved up almost a car width off the bottom. You see Jacob Edson fall back a 10th. He did get within a 10th of Paul Witt. Now he's back 2/10. That 43 is Sandy Curtis, man. He is holding strong, looking to challenge the 44 there on the outside. It's a nice run, but these runs that he's getting are forcing him to the bottom. And we've already seen the bottom is not where positions are being made. It's the top, but 43 looks like he was able to make that stick. 44 goes for the cutback immediately. Is Jacob Edson going to have, he got the grip in that car to make this pass stick? He dives it down low. Not able to keep it door to door with the 43s. He sticks with this quarter panel. He's up kind of alongside, but that momentum is not there. Ducks in behind the 43. Lets Sandy Curtis go. Jacob Edson, one of those guys. This is one of the best big picture long run drivers I've seen. I've seen him drive from the back to the front, very similar to how we've seen Gary Sapinski do it and win one of these races, several times. Seen him run that high lane, run that low lane, that middle lane. He seems to be able to put that car wherever he wants and make it move forward. He's a very fast driver. But I think, watching Jacob Edson, he's definitely one of those slow as smooth. Smooth is slow, slow is smooth, smooth is fast, whatever it is. Either way, by basically taking it easy. One of these days I'll remember how that saying goes, but watching him run these races, he's very smooth. He takes it very easy on his car, and that's why we see him with a lot left to challenge towards the end of these races. And I think where he's at right now, he realized maybe they were pushing this car just a little bit too hard. He's like, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to back off of this real quick. I'm going to go ahead and let the guys ahead of me try and wear their stuff out. You see he's trying to run that high lane. Sandy Curtis, though, if he had a pass where they could reach their fingers out and brush that wall as Sandy Curtis goes to turns 3 and 4. Jacob Edson here running that, running a little bit lower, keeping as much fresh air on the front of that car as he can. He's keeping right up with Sandy Curtis and Paul Witt. Both these guys 2 to 3 tenths away from Paul. He's really not able to pull away at all. We were talking about it a little bit ago. Michael Pegg has fallen back. He was only a second off of these guys. Now he's over a second and a half back from that third place car, just looking for whatever speed he can find. He's coming under fire from the 9 of John Held, who has run him back from several seconds behind, currently running in 5th. Just doing what he can to study that line of Michael Pegg, get around him. Brian Pierce here in the 6th. He is currently running in the 6th position. He was able to clear the folks he was racing around, trying to get up to the rear bumper, that number 9 of John Held. And we just saw that ticker, the 9 going for a pass there on the bottom. Got that nose ahead, but he's not going to be able to slide up. Nope. It's going to really hurt his momentum going here into turn 3. Had a really good run. Unfortunately, just nowhere to go with it. So he's going to have to force his way to the outside of Michael Pegg, I think, to make this pass stick. I know I've mentioned it before, but I think he's going to have to do it. As well, we see up here towards the front, 43 and the 44 fighting for the second position again. Jacob Edson hard on that bottom white line, not able to get the momentum he really needs, falls back in line. I think that's going to be the story of the night up here in the front. But it is essentially a 3-car breakaway from the rest of the field. Paul Witt, though, having the benefit of that clean air, he gets to dictate pace, he gets to dictate the lanes, he gets to choose who makes speed where. And so long as he's happy watching these guys behind him fight back and forth for these positions. Just go ahead, keep wrestling with each other. I'll keep running my race. That's what he's doing. See, he's giving them all that fresh air up there on the top because they're so busy fighting each other. They're really slowing themselves down. They're now 3 tenths, the two of them, 3 and 4 tenths of a second back each. They get lined up there along these straightaways and really push. They might be able to push past that 429, something they're going to have to do. 44 slots in right behind the 43. That's the kind of teamwork move that I think they're going to need to be able to really get up there and get past Paul. 3 cars running almost 3 completely separate lines. Sandy Curtis was there within 2 tenths of a second. Paul Witt there for just a little bit. He's right there. See, they make a lot of time on these straightaways on him. Here we go. They are getting closer little by little. As they're getting closer to Paul Witt, they are pulling away from the drivers behind him. 9 and John Held was able to get around the 777 of Michael Pegg. That is not an easy feat. But here he goes. He is doing what he can to track down the guys ahead of him. He's 2.2 back, so if he catches them, it's going to be on speed alone. Michael Pegg 2.5 seconds back here. Jacob Edson just too far back really to be able to get the kind of pull he needs down the straightaways from the guys ahead. Listen to that 9 car. These guys firmly within the realm of really having a lift to be able to make these corners with any kind of speed and ability. Heard how long he was out of the throttle. You heard him start to feather it going through the corner and then hard back in it probably about halfway through. That's the kind of wear that these guys have seen on these tires. He's got a good view of what's happening ahead of him. And the good thing for him, these guys racing side by side, they're really allowing him to catch up. He was 2.2 back. He's now 1.8. Guess what? He's pulling Michael Pegg with him. Michael Pegg was going in the wrong direction, but now that he's got someone to draft with, he's really able to make up some track position. That Tide ride is fast. I think we're going to be talking about him a lot more as this race goes on. Take a look up here, back towards the front, 429. Paul Witt still well in control of this race, but the 43 and the 44 still racing hard side by side. It's like we're looking at two different eras of Petty motorsport, Petty enterprises. Almost, not quite. I think they're called Legacy Motor Club now that they're running Toyotas, but 43 and the 44 for a long time. Teammates on the track in real life here, racing hard side by side. 44 Jacob Edson got a really good run down the backstretch, sent it into turn 3, and that's why he was able to do it. 43 is Sandy Curtis. He is lifting. He is coming down pit road. Lap 48 coming to lap 49. My guess is he should be able to make it from here. So this is the first guy coming down pit road for fresh tires. So we got a few, looks like we got a taker behind him. The 6 of Brian Pierce, I believe. The 24 of Jacob Adams, the 59 of Ralph Blair, 33 of Gary Ragland. All these guys coming down pit road for fresh tires fairly early. I believe actually Michael Pegg may have beat them. He's currently showing one lap down, so my correction, he should be your first car coming down pit road for 4 tires and fuels. He gets around everybody. Sandy Curtis just came off pit road. He's going to get passed by Michael Pegg. I believe that was Dirty Don Davis. We also saw, yep, he came down a little bit early. He's first car a lap down. Not certain when he came down. 429 of Paul Witt has come down pit road to get his service. He can't let these guys behind him go that much longer. 44 Jacob Edson followed him through. This gives the lead to the number 9 of John Held. Take a look. Paul Witt getting passed by the 71. He's got the 777 here coming to his outside. Those fresh tires. Look, just a lap or two. Look at all that time that was made by the 777 of Michael Pegg. We come forward to the 9 of John Held. How long does he want to stay out here? We've seen these fresh tires already making plays. Some folks who were mired a little bit further back in traffic, they've made their way further up. Currently only 2 cars on the lead lap would be the number 9 of John Held, the 4 of Larry Eddy. Everyone else having come down pit road, put 4 tires and fuel. Your first car a lap down would be the 71 of Dirty Don, as it looks like maybe no. 9 is staying out. This could be the right move. We've seen here in Lucky Dog where coming down pit road early really bites you in the behind later in the race. That's something that the 9 of John Held has seen time and time again, watching Gary Sapinski and Michael Pegg run their races here. So it looks like he's running a lot longer. Michael Pegg came down, I want to say lap 46, 47. 9 coming down here on lap 53, coming to lap 54, gets it woed up, able to make pit road speed. Looked like he was really able to attack that fairly well. So he's going to have, I'm going to guess, 7-8 lap fresher tires than Michael Pegg. He's definitely got fresher tires than the 71 of Dirty Don Davis, who in all this has cycled to the 6th position. Michael Pegg here having got his lap back, currently scored 2nd. He's got the 429 of Paul Witt, the 44 Jacob Edson, and the 43 is Sandy Curtis behind him. The 3 of those guys still in the same order they were. Where's the 9 car just coming off pit road? Staying out. He lost a lot of time on track. Already showing over 5 seconds back. 7 seconds is the ticker updates. So he's got a tall order ahead of him. Michael Pegg finally gets his car out front. Look who he's got behind him. He's got the pole sitter, the guy who's led, the guy who led over 40 laps up to this point. I want to say 48 laps. Paul has led. With the number of laps I think John Held led, I don't think anyone's going to be able to challenge Paul for number of laps led this evening. As he is making his way up, he is slowly tracking down that 777. He's got to make the distance that he can now while these tires are still fresh. We're actually going to take a second. We're going to ride along with the 43 at Sandy Curtis as these guys work their way back up towards the leader. This is an interesting development, interesting thing to listen to. I mean, we've already heard these guys to a point where they are lifted going into these corners. We saw it with the 43 of Sandy Curtis. We rode on a little bit with the 44 of Jacob Edson. Both of those guys lifting going into the turns. 429 and the 777 of Michael Pegg, though. Sort of just running whatever lane they can. Look like they're very, very hard in the throttle still. You see Michael Pegg moving up to the top to block Paul Witt. He knows Paul's fast. If Paul gets by, it's going to be a tall order to pass him. If Paul goes low, Michael goes a little bit lower. Paul goes high, Michael is right there in front of him in the entirety of turns 1 and 2. Paul trying to get whatever kind of advantage he can. He gets that lap lead. Be able to get up, not quite clear of the 777, but he's able to clear him there going into turn 1. He's going to have to slide up real quick because that 777, he's going to have a lot of momentum coming off this corner. Side by side with the 43, and that'll kill the run the 777's got. Sandy Curtis not able to stay there. Paul Witt moving to the high side. He's like, okay, I'm back out in front. This is where I want to be. You guys stay back there and fight amongst yourselves. There's only about 2-3 laps difference in these. No. Yeah, 2-3 laps difference in these two guys' tires. So fairly even here. See Michael Pegg moving to that bottom, trying to keep that clean air. 44, Jacob Edson. What does he want to do here? He saw the 429 pass Michael low. Can he get past Michael on the low side? So he's more sort of straddling the line between the 777 and the 429. Dives down low. Michael Pegg here going into the tri-oval. He's able to get there. 43 gets to his left rear. Looks like he had to make a slight course correction there. 3 wide for a second. 44 Jacob Edson not able to make that stick. I think the 43 may have upset the rear end of that car. Really hurt his run. Sandy Curtis going to try and follow through and capitalize here on the outside, trying to follow Michael Pegg. Thought about going 3 wide, saw that hole really close up. As he pushes Michael here going down the front stretch, they go into turn 1. Both able to get clear of Jacob Edson. Sandy Curtis really hanging it there as hard as he can around the outside. He's going to have a heck of a run on Michael Pegg going down this back stretch. As he looks to the inside, falls back in line, dives down to the bottom, is able to get there. Michael lets him have it. He already knows the speed that middle lane's got. He's able to hang there on the door. A little bit better run going down the front stretch than the 43. Sandy a little bit shallower line. He dives in there for a brief moment in time. He was clear of the 777, but that momentum there around the outside, Sandy not able to slide up to the wall, really hurt the momentum on that 43 car. That's something all these guys are seeing. Is like, if you can make a pass slow, you've got to make it quick. The turn you get there is the turn you've got to get it done. You cannot afford to be stuck on the bottom lap after lap after lap. Sandy Curtis now back to fourth. Jacob Edson was the one who got shuffled back there. So he's trying to pass Michael Pegg again. Just not able to get there. Michael Pegg still hanging around the outside. I think that pass Paul Witt made on him was a little bit of an eye-opener. He learned a little bit from Paul how he was going to go ahead and guard those passes from the bottom. Seems like he's doing a pretty good job of it. He's keeping the 43 and the 44, both of these guys keeping them racing each other. Sandy Curtis goes for a pass on Jacob Benson. He's that run already fizzling out. Like we mentioned, these guys should be able to make it to the end here. The guy who's loving this more than anybody, 429 of Paul Witt, he's managed to pull 0.4 of a second on everyone behind him. He's committed to that middle-high lane. Michael Pegg able to make up a little bit of ground on him there on the bottom of 3 and 4, but if you look, Paul Witt able to pull it right back. Paul goes to the bottom here through 1 and 2. Because he's able to slide out to that wall. He's able to get everything out of that particular line. Unfortunately for Paul, Michael is just far enough back that Michael can adjust his line to make sure that he gets clean air on the front of that car. As Michael again comes under fire from the 44 of Jacob Edson, all over the rear bumper of that 777 car. And he himself is getting, I think, the back end of that car upset by the 43. This is a three-way battle for second place. These guys have been fighting like this. I'm going to go ahead and say, I mean, it took them a lap or two to get all linked back up. I'm going to say these guys have been fighting for second place since they came down pit road. Everyone wanted to get past 429 of Paul Witt. Everyone wanted to get by him. And Michael Pegg was able to do that briefly. Paul got back by. But these three, Michael Pegg, Jacob Edson, Sandy Curtis, these three have been dogfighting each other for the second position for about the last 15 laps, it feels like. You can really hear how much the grip has gone away in these cars, how long Sandy Curtis was having to stay out of the throttle going through turns 1 and 2. He wasn't able to get back in the throttle there along the top side until almost corner exit. He's just sort of feathering the throttle, trying to maintain speed. That car definitely almost no grip left in that thing. He's been racing pretty hard. I don't think his car has felt as good this second run as it did the first run. He's just looking for all the clean air he can get to be able to make some time as he dives it down there on the inside. There was a fairly substantial gap between himself and the 44, and he closed it right up just by diving it there into turn 3. See that 44, the 777, they're running the top. That is really hurting the 43's ability to make pace up there. So he's really going to have to look around, try and find where they're not. He's able to move it down the track just a little bit. He might be able to get some grip, but with the way these guys have been running, I don't know that even that would be the thing to do. The amazing thing is all 4 of these guys, your top 4, Paul Witt, Michael Pegg, Jacob Edson, and Sandy Curtis, all four of these guys are within just about a half second of each other. They've not really fallen off the way we're used to seeing at a lot of these tracks. Chicagoland Motor Speedway, I want to say probably it's one of the, I've heard it said that it's the easiest track on iRacing to drive, but I would contend it's also the easiest track in iRacing to drive wrong. It's one of those you can run foot through the floor the entire way around this track, lap after lap after lap for quite a while. But the question is, do you want to? Is that what's going to lead to long-term speed? And I bet if we were to ride along with a lap or two with the 429, we're going to hear he's getting out of the throttle even with all this clean air he's got. Hear him easing into the throttle. How long he is off the throttle going through these corners. He's really having to wait a long time to get back to full throttle before he can keep going. We are hearing him feathering, altering his throttle inputs. His car is starting to go away. You can see 777 of Michael Pegg. His car is starting to come back. Challenging Paul Witt down there on the bottom, but we already know the momentum is not there on the bottom. So you see some lap traffic ahead. Guys who came down pit road also contend maybe these guys might be saving fuel. I don't think they need to as they come up on the lap car, the 19 of Ben here. I expect Ben is going to give a nice pull to Paul Witt. Really try and Paul try and use that draft from the 19. But I'd be willing to bet that 19 is on fresh tires and he is not going to really be a factor in what's happening behind him for too long. See, all four of these guys still within half a second of each other. Paul Witt moving right up to the highest lane. Michael Pegg still trying to make that bottom lane work. It's just not there. Paul Witt stalls out Michael Pegg's pace. 44 Jacob Edson follows through. Michael's able to drop in the middle. Paul goes right back to running that bottom lane, trying to build a little bit of space between himself and the guys behind. He's going to have to do this for another 20 laps. And none of these guys, the three guys behind him, none of them have given up. Now let's go ahead. I want to take a second because we've been looking at these top four for a while. The 9 of John Held, remember, he was 7 seconds back on these guys when he came down pit road, probably more so, and he's closed the gap to 3.5 seconds, roughly. I'm not certain. Let's ride with him for a little bit. Making sure that he's got something for the end of this race, but he appears to have stalled out around the 3.5 second mark. Wonder if maybe just those tires have really reached the end of their, I guess, I hate to say service life, but almost about the end of that. I mean, he's like crawling back just a little bit more each and every lap, but 15, 16 laps left. I don't know how much he has left, as these guys in our top four negotiating the lap traffic here. 71 of Dirty Don. Dirty Don doing his best to keep it up out of the way. Unfortunately for Sandy Curtis, where Dirty Don is keeping it out of the way, that's exactly where Sandy needs to be running to be able to keep up with these guys. Dirty Don really lets out the throttle there to let the 43 by to go ahead and rejoin that fight. That's opened the gap Paul Witt has over second place to 0.4 of a second. This is probably the most breathing room he's had here around these guys for a while, but they're going to be dealing with lap traffic probably from here on out as they close in on the rear bumper of 89 and Randolph Richard. Wonder where is Randolph going to take it. See, he's running low, and that's really going to hurt the run the 429 has got. May back him up to the 777 of Michael Pegg. If Paul can get this pass done on Randolph quickly, he should be able to take advantage of it. Randolph Pierce, yep, he looks like he's letting him go. He's still running that high lane. That's going to, looks like Michael Pegg trying to work with that. Paul Witt able to get by fairly easily. 777 and the 44, though, working together, try and catch right up. They dive that down into the bottom. Able to make up some time. Looks like Paul Witt able to just pull it right back out. Right back to 0.4 of a second. Unfortunately, in this dealing with lap traffic, the big loser here, I believe, is the 43 of Sandy Curtis. He fell off 0.4 to the back of Jacob Edson. I don't think getting past the 89 of Randolph Richard is going to make this any easier. I know the 43 would probably prefer Randolph run the bottom. He dives it off in there. He's not just able to slide it back up, get back in the draft of the two guys in front of him. Jacob Edson here looking to get that pass on the 777 of Michael Pegg, going to the bottom again. And you know Paul Witt is looking at this guy. Yes, please run side by side. 44 able to make that pass though. Paul Witt now a half second out. Sandy Curtis doing what he can. He's 1.1 seconds back, trying to get back up there. He's had one of the fastest cars all night. He's shown that he belongs in this conversation. Just short end of the stick there. Was able to get by Randolph Richard pretty easily. Was able to get, once it was just him and Dirty Don, he was able to get by, but trying to hold on to the back end of Michael Pegg just did not have the pace to clear Dirty Don as he closes in about a 10th, almost 0.2 of a second there on Michael, which he really needs to close in on, being that third place car. Michael trying to keep up with Jacob Edson here. I think this is really where, Michael's shown that the lap difference in these tires don't seem to matter too much. Looked like maybe his tires just finally fell off as Jacob Edson, he's been saving. He's been saving all race. For these last 10 laps, we are 10 to go. Jacob Edson, if he wants to make that pass on Paul Witt, he's going to have to make it now. It's not something he can really dilly-dally and make. He needs to make it as soon as possible with as much momentum as he can to prevent that cutback. We've seen that crossover move on folks that they've made leader as they've made position and immediately lost it. We saw that with Sandy Curtis early on in this run and in the first run, I believe. You see Michael Pegg just trying to get back there to that 44. Jacob Edson does not appear too concerned about what's happened out front. He is within a 10th of Paul Witt. Just a little bit closer and he could touch him. He seems far more concerned about what's going on with that 429. See, he backs up that corner. So we can dive it down, get that run coming out of the corners, get that momentum right up to the rear bumper of the 429, trying to upset the handling of that car just a little bit. So he lets Paul, fire it off into the corner and gets monster runs coming out of the corner. Which way are they going to go? Paul Witt went low, thinking what's going on with the 140. 44 took it high. Where does Featherstone go? Looks like he stays up high. 429 of Paul Witt. He's stuck down there on the bottom. 44 Jacob Edson. That's all he needed. Clears Paul Witt. Sends it to the point. A lot of momentum. Paul Witt really got slowed up by that 140 car. Not, Featherstone there, not entirely certain where was he supposed to go. Paul Witt has got now 6 laps to track down that 44 as they head into more lap traffic. They negotiate that car pretty quick. I believe that's the 33 of Gary Ragland. Does Paul have anything left in that car to challenge Jacob? Paul diving it in there into the turn 3 and 4, really closes up. Able to take advantage of that corner exit, so he's able to really close up the gap on these guys. And look who's back in the picture. Lap down car 71, Dirty Don Davis, looking to see what he can do, see if he can get one of his laps back. Paul Witt not quite able. Oh, 44 in the wall. That's what Paul Witt needed. Jacob Edson pushed it too hard, just drilled the outside wall coming out of turn 2. That slowed down the 71. Paul Witt able to get back by. Does not appear that it affected the handling of that 44 too much. 44 able to get back to the outside of the 429. Paul did not do a good job guarding that outside. He dives it back down there at the bottom. He is not able to clear the 44, maybe just a little bit. No, it's close, not clear. 44 in the wall again. He is not going to be happy with the 429 after that. Looked like Paul thought maybe he was clear, was not quite. That's going to really hurt the aerodynamics of that 44 car. Brought the 777 right back into the conversation. Hopefully Paul learned. He did not. He's still guarding that bottom lane. They go off into turns 1 and 2 again. 3 laps to go in this. Paul not clear. He's not going to be able to slide up. 71 to his inside, 44 to his outside. 3 wide going down the backstretch. Jacob Edson able to reclaim the lead. Paul going a little bit lower lane, trying to follow Jacob. I think maybe if he'd guarded high, he would have been able to hold him off, but Jacob now has the benefit of that faster 71 car, probably fresh tires on that machine. Jacob able to get that draft pulled down the straightaways. That's what he needs to stay out ahead of that 429. 2 laps to go. White flag next time. Zelo will pull out 3/10 of a lead here on Paul Witt. Paul can really cinch it up going into corner exit, but Jacob Edson's got, it's our corner entrance, but Jacob's got that corner exit. Four-tenths of a second separate the 429 and the 44. We mentioned it. The 44 has got that long run, big picture speed. He had to have been saving this entire run, and it has paid off. 3/10 of a second. If he can keep it out of the wall coming out of turn 4, this is his race. Half a second ahead of the 429 of Paul Witt. 44 of Jacob Edson. Comes down out of turn 4 over the start finish line. Jacob Edson is your winner. 429 of Paul Witt brings it home second. The 777 of Michael Pegg will be your third place finisher. The 43 of Sandy Curtis brings it home in fourth, and the number 9 of John Held in fifth. These guys did everything they could to make it an exciting race down to the end. Jacob Edson and Paul Witt fought very hard for that win. That was Jacob earned that win, definitely. Congratulations to the 44 of Jacob Edson. as he burns it down. We'll see if we can pull our top 3 finishers to the booth for a quick chat. Alrighty, and so looking through, it does not appear that the 44 of Jacob Edson is in the TeamSpeak chat, which is unfortunate. Would have loved to have talked with him, especially after that fight with the 429 of Paul Witt there at the end. But we got Paul here, so we'll be able to talk to him. But we'll start with our 3rd place finisher, the 777 of Michael Pegg. Michael, swim in the booth. You got me?
Yes, sir.
Phenomenal run. I think you were the first person to pit under that green flag pit cycle there. And, despite the fact the guys ahead of you had, 4, 5, 7 lap fresher tires, in some cases, you were able to hold right with them. Go ahead and talk us through that second segment. You look like you were on fire.
It was tough. Let me tell you, it was tough. The draft was tough. The track was tough. The setup. The draft was incredible. And, hats off to those guys, man. It was hard to catch them. I got in the wall, so that's why I pitted. I wanted to check my car, so that's why I didn't stay. That's why I came back out 6th instead of 4th. But yeah, it was tough fighting my way back up there and maintaining, because when they tracked me down, man, they were tough. My tires were pretty much, wasn't for the draft, they'd have just blown away from me.
You look like you were caught in a dogfight there for probably about 30 laps between the 44 of Jacob Edson, the 43 of Sandy Curtis. Both those guys fighting very, very hard with you. You mentioned you got in the wall. How tight was the car getting as the race went on?
It was great. I didn't have any problem with it getting tight. It was just a difficult setup to use. It was it was weird turning. It was a little tighter than normal. But it was okay. The draft pulled you through.
The draft definitely seemed very, very important. Noticed that, you top 4, you guys could not drive away from each other at all. It didn't seem how hard you guys ran. It took lap traffic to really separate you guys. It was, phenomenal racing between all 4 of you. Fought every lap there. I like that kind of racing. I think you guys did absolutely fantastic. So my hat's off to all 4 of you.
Yeah, that was incredible. Yeah, Sandy was driving outstanding tonight. Jacob, well, he's always there. And then Paul, he was deadly tonight as usual. It was a good race. There's a lot of guys up front. A lot of traffic tonight, a lot of guys side by side, and then that only works out for a couple laps, and they fade off in the distance. I don't understand that, but hopefully as time will get better, they'll fall in place or lead follow or get out of the way, whatever the hell that goes. Paul and Jacob got me out of the way, that's for sure.
Well, it was an absolute blast. Again, hats off to you. Is there anyone you want to thank before we let you go, Michael?
Yeah, sure do. All the Lucky Dog guys. I want to thank all the Lucky Dog members, all the people watching Lucky Dog broadcasting. I want to thank you. I want to thank God himself. I want to thank all the regulators. And Gary's sick. Hope he gets better tonight. And I want to thank Tracy, Molly, Cash, and Winston.
Well, thank you, Michael. It was a blast talking to you, and hopefully we get to talk to you next time.
Thanks, sir.
Alrighty, and that should move us to our 2nd place driver here, Paul Witt, started on the pole. Paul, there's women in the booth. You got me?
Yeah, I got you, William.
That was a dogfight between you and Jacob Edson there for the last 15 laps of that race. And I think, you were the dominant car all night, but those last 15 laps where you were fighting your behind off to keep him back there. I think that's really what I want to talk about, because I think that's the most competition anyone threw your way all night.
Yeah, Jacob, it's a little stinking little snake is what he is. Snake in the grass, man. I mean, he followed me most of the night. He knew what my lines were and stuff like that. So I mean, he went to school on me, and the lap traffic. I think that's what got me at the end was the lap traffic, because once we got by Don and then Don came back again. I had nothing for Jacob at that time. My car just would not turn anymore. My right front tire was gone.
Yeah, it definitely looked like you were having an issue keeping it down there on the bottom. Really looked like you were having to lift a lot out of the throttle, waiting way too long to get back into it. I mean, you squeezed each other in the wall a couple times. We could tell your cars were toast by that point.
Yeah, but we both finished with 0 incidences, so hats off to that, huh? Yeah, it was just a real tight battle. Jacob, it was fun racing with him tonight like that.
Yeah, and it was a blast to watch. I mean, I think so. So you started pole, you led a lap, you led the most laps. I want to say you were probably the dominant car of the night. If you could have done anything different there in those last 10 laps, what do you think you might have done different to hold Jacob off?
Try to maybe save the tires just a little bit more, I really couldn't save too much. Michael pitted first, and I had to track him down. So we tracked him down. I used a lot of tire tracking him down. Once we got him tracked down, it was just the draft. You just couldn't. It was so dominant tonight. You couldn't just run away. If two cars, I tried before with Sandy and Jacob battling it out. Tried to pull away, but once they started, single filing it, they caught me real quick because of the draft. I mean, that's the part that really sucks. I couldn't walk away. I was trying to.
I think that's part of what makes Chicagoland such a fun track is how difficult it can be for the leader to break away from everybody. He's always got to be checking that rear view mirror. And it looked like, I want to say all night you had Jacob and Sandy and Michael in your rear view mirror. Just through the night. I guess the better question, because I was going to go one way, but this is a better question. How did that car feel on the second run compared to the first one?
It felt fine on both runs as long as I could run my line. I really, really liked the bottom. And if I could have just ran the bottom all night, but those guys were catching me, so I had to move up, to tighten their cars up a little bit, because once you get behind a car, you're going to get tight. So I had to adjust my line a few times and just to keep them behind me. But Jacob had such a good run that one time, I couldn't hold him off. My tires were gone.
Well, it was a valiant effort, absolute blast to watch, and I definitely hope we get to see more of that going forward. I mean, we got some tracks where things really single file and stretch out. You don't have a lot of side by side competition, but tonight we had that in spades, especially there up inside that top 5. So I mean, I mentioned it to Michael, mentioned it to you. Hats off to you. Y'all kept it pointed in the right direction.
Yeah, it was. It was tough because it was if you got back to the gas too soon, you were pushing towards the wall. And a couple of times I did that because I knew they were coming and the laps were counting down. And I really had to get out of it the one time because I almost creamed the wall. And I think that's what really helped Jacob catch closer to me when I did that.
Well, congratulations on your finish, Paul. Is there anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, I got to thank you and all the lucky dogs and Michael and Brian and all the admins over here. It's really a fun group of guys. If we could just let some of the guys that are laps down with 5 to go, if they would just back off and just let us race it out, it would be well appreciated. But, got to thank for my wife, let me come down here and do what I like to do, and wish you were on the track because, you and me here, boy, we would have had some more dog fighting going on.
We would have. You and I do work very well at tracks like Chicagoland and Kansas and tracks like that. We work very well together.
Yep. Yeah, it would have been a blast, but, you do a good job up in the booth, so can't complain about that. We get good racing and you up in the booth. Win-win.
Yeah, I mean, I still plan on doing at least one race a season, calling it from the car. Tonight would have been my pick, but my computer is currently in the shop, and I'm using a backup machine. So,
Well, your real pick would have been if we'd do Pocono. That would be your real pick right there.
guaranteed, I would enjoy fighting you and Jacob at Pocono. Well, thank you for talking with us, Paul. Absolute blast again, and we hope we get to talk to you next time.
All right, thanks, William. Appreciate it.
All righty, and that should wrap us up for the evening. I hope you all had as much fun watching this race as I did. If you enjoyed it, like, comment, subscribe. If you hated it, dislike, comment, and subscribe so you can keep telling us how much you don't like the race. Either way, we appreciate all of our viewers. We like seeing the engagement. We like seeing what y'all think. So hopefully we'll see you back here next time. Tomorrow night there will be the truck series, short track series. I think primarily what they're running is a short tracks. They're running mostly the stuff that we don't run on Thursday nights. I think last week I was under the weather last week. I think last week was Watkins Glen. Still a little under the weather right now, but we'll be all right. Thursday, you should hear from me again on Thursday. Of course, we have our 1.5-mile truck series. That'll be the second race of that season. So we're looking forward to that. Late model stocks on Friday, Xfinity Super Speedway on Saturday, and we do it all again on Monday with the Gen 4 Cup cars. So hopefully you all had as much fun as I did tonight. And until next time, have a good one.